Namaste. Welcome back, beautiful souls, to my journey through the Tarot de Marseille Majors. If you're new to my channel, welcome. My name is Sadhana, and it's lovely to have you here. Whether you are live or you are coming back and making comments, I really appreciate all of you. So today's discussion is Temperance, and what a fascinating card this is. I'm going to get right into the cards, and I have been really contemplating one of the questions that J.M. David asks in his book, and that is the actual process of moving the liquid from one container to another. And I just want to say, of all of the chapters, I think this is my favorite discussion in his book. So if you do have this book and you haven't read the Temperance section for a while, please go back and read it. It's really kind of brilliant. I've studied this card a lot, and there's just so much to work with when the Temperance card arises in a reading, and I want to just really celebrate the extra layers that we get through the Tarot de Marseille. Anyway, I want to talk about this process of moving liquid from one container to another, and what that feels like. First of all, in the tarot, Heidi, welcome. It feels to me like the angel or the person who is doing this is very skilled at this, as if they would be a professional server. Someone who is, I can think about like an artist of some kind, doing a performance, that they had practiced this many times. Not one drop misses the container. And in a way, this leads me to believe this is, rather than liquid, this is a force. This is an energetic force that is moving from one container to another. It reminds me of the feeling one can have between your hands, and how we can feel energy between the hands. And it may require you rubbing your hands together to stimulate that experience. But the more sensitive you are to energy, the further you can take your hands apart and continue to feel this and stretch and move that energy. And so whatever is moving from cup to cup, I think the reflection of this experience is important. And especially if you have studied the Crowley Thoth deck, you've been looking into some of the more alchemical interpretations of this card. The process of refining through multiple passings back and forth is a really interesting contemplation in terms of this card. And as we move into these higher arcana, and we are on this journey of further refining ourselves, further cleansing and purifying and figuring out, what we're doing here, what's going on. This card is such a deep, I don't know, it's just a really deep process for me. And I don't think, she looks like she would make a great cocktail. Like she would be a bartender that is really showing off behind the counter. And I think about people who do magic and do this with flames, or other energy. So it's very mystical to me. And one of the conversations that arises in many of the books is the direction that the water is pouring. So the prominent hand that is being used in the Fine Dilatore, you see that it goes from the right hand to the left hand. The right hand is higher. And in most of the Tarot de Marseille, you will see the opposite, going from the left hand to the right hand. And of course, there is always questions of reversals in the printing process and all kinds of things. But I think with the Jacques Vieilly deck, having two versions printed, at least this is the Jacques Vieilly deck, and I have let me get you the box. So in this series of decks, this is Jean-Claude Flournoy, one of the creations from there. There are 44 cards in this pack, or about 44 cards, two versions, some printed in reverse and others not. But on this card we have Sol Fama, which is a reference to the divine, and I think that also supports the notion that this is something quite high frequency, let's call it that, that's going on here. We're not mixing cocktails. And I think that's funny too, because sometimes we have to dummy down the tarot, and readings can be so mundane. And of course, we might end up talking about mixing cocktails. But for the most part, I think this really speaks to the what it means to, and I'm very reluctant to use the word purify. It's a word that we use in yoga a lot, and all that means is we are doing the work to clean out the gunk, and that often that begins with a physical asana practice, and then over time you may have developed a leaning towards different aspects of yoga, and whatever it is that you are doing, whether you're doing karma yoga, some form of seva, devotional practices, or mantra or chanting, this is all about raising one's frequency, and the more energy that's put into raising one's frequency, the more easily the sticky bits begin to fall away. And I think that this is a card about that. Now, why is there an angel in this card? And I think that's open for discussion as well, too. This card follows the death card. And so many things here. Whether you read the tarot right to left or left to right, I think there are cases for both. However, when we read the tarot and I guess it depends on the deck that you are working with, the direction that death is going. So which deck should we pick? Let's use the Noble just for fun. I'm just going to get out death and the devil. And this will, depending on the deck you have in hand, will be a little bit different. So we talked about this card last time. So here is death and then temperance. And you can see that death is moving towards temperance if you read right to left. And there is a case for that. So there's something of a flow of an energy here. And also that means that temperance is leaning away from death, or that there is some, evolution of energy here. That also makes sense that the flow is going this way from the left hand to the right hand. I love the stories that the tarot just kind of weaves together. I don't think that we can talk about temperance without recognizing its position in the tarot. And I know a lot of readers and querents struggle with the Devil card. And it is one, that's discussion for next week, is loaded with possible interpretations. But in terms of its energy of following temperance, it's like a cautionary tale. If you honor this phase, this time of temperance, and make a concerted effort to raise your frequency, whatever that might mean for you, then maybe you can bypass the devil. I want to go to Dee's comment here. I always feel the liquid is moving in both directions simultaneously. The angel is the master of time and motion. Yeah, so the liquid could be moving from the bottom cup to the top cup. It could be, it's an energetic thing. And it's like what I was saying about playing with energy between the hands. You can't determine the direction that it's moving. I also want to say welcome back to Elizabeth. It's nice to have you back as a member again, so welcome back. Thank you for supporting my channel. So here's an important point. It always depends on the reading, right? Depends on the question that's being asked. There may be a reason why you notice the liquid flowing from bottom to top or top to bottom. That may or may not be significant in a given reading. And the liquid itself may be highly significant. It might also mean that the direction that temperance is leaning is indicative of maybe what you are letting go of and what you are leaning into, or the advice of what would be good for you to lean into. And I like that. That appeals to me because that's such a non-authoritarian way of spirit saying it's time for you to lean into something for your greater good, for your highest. I want to also look at the clothing, the costuming, the design of the clothes on temperance. And this is something that has intrigued me also. And those of you that follow color or relate and use color in your readings, this card is really unique in that we have the masculine or the solar red and the lunar blue in one figure. And it's not always exactly blue and red, but some variation on that. Suggesting that through the blending of the liquid, the transformation of the liquid, the filtering of the liquid, or the energy, we become more united, self-empowered through the softening of our solar energy and the empowering of our lunar energy. And it's so fascinating that, let me get my pointer. So this is the Dodal, same Flora Noir's deck, Flora Noir's reproduction. So the red is the red, the left arm, the left side of the body has the red fabric. So the lunar side of the body wears the solar color. The strength comes from the lunar side of the body. And the angel leans into their solar side, which wears the blue fabric. So the colors are reversed. And you'll see that in various ways in the tarot to symbolize integration. I think one card that comes to mind in the Waite-Smith deck is how in the 10 of Pentacles, the woman wears red and the man wears blue, right? There's some acknowledgement of a role reversal or an integration of energy. Let me go to Dee's comment and then I'll carry on with this thought. Jodorowsky sees a fresh step after death. After the profound work of Arcanum 13 that has swept away the useless, creating the emptiness necessary for the reestablishment of inner circulation. Those are nice words. If we truly are able to let something die, a behavior, a relationship, a thought, whatever it is that's coming up for you, then there is some emptiness. There's some space that is created. And so this is quite a beautiful card. And it also reminds me to, take time with healing and not to rush through healing. That part of the process is empowerment, a strengthening of the lunar qualities of self and a softening of one's solar qualities, or an embracing of both and letting both shine through. Now in the Noble, it's not so clear. Happy Saturday to you, Angela, as well. It's not so clear the lefts and the rights because we have blue in the center, red on the top, a little bit of red here. So it's not so apparent. But this is a pattern that I think is definitely significant. In the Jean-Pierre Payen 1713, this one picks up the colors of green and red, which feels very Venusian. Hello, Lucy, welcome. And so we have the red and the green. So like I said, these colors vary from deck to deck. But for the most part, we do see the wings, except in some of the older decks. And I believe, so the Fine Dilatori, which is on the right, is the same pattern as the, sorry, I'm drawing a blank. The older decks that predate all of this, where the liquid is poured from or with the right hand. So the action is coming from the right hand. The other, so this is also kind of cool here. And I really need to take some days to study this deck. I need to bring it forward here. I know when I move my head, the mic does weird things. But what I was thinking about was the use of these symbols up on the top. And sometimes it's more obvious about sun and moon. This one, it looks like they could both be sun, but ideally I would love to see up at the top one side sun and one side moon, showing the reversal of all of that. A color is a very powerful thing, and it may speak to some of you more than others. Now, as a virtue, the actual literal meaning of temperance, I think this is also, applicable in contemporary readings, in that we can become stronger, we can become more evolved, we can become healthier if we pare away, refine, reduce that which doesn't make us stronger, that which doesn't make us healthier, that which doesn't contribute to our wellness. And temperance isn't a word that we use day to day, but I think it's an important concept that only through doing a tarot reading do we have an opportunity to discuss. And I think where this really comes forward is when people come for a tarot reading, usually there's something that's going on. And should this card appear in a reading, it's so very clear what the topic on the table is. However, I want to be really sensitive to its position in the tarot, because if the energy of, and when we don't live the tarot from A to Z, right? We don't necessarily journey from death to temperance to devil, but the qualities of those cards on either side, I'm intimately aware of when I'm doing this reading, and that's part of what's, I'm processing in my head. Depending on the other surrounding cards, I'll kind of know where we are in the story. It's funny how the longer I've studied and the more readings that I do, it would be really, I wish, well, I don't even know if it's possible, if I could say over 25 plus years how many tarot readings I have done. And of course I've changed as a reader, and I've grown, and I've learned, and there have been gaps, but not that many. And so where am I going with this? My inner compass, my inner map of the tarot, my inner mandala of the tarot that lives in my cellular body, my brain, my energy body, is aware of all of these connections at the same time. So when I'm looking at one card, I'm also looking at a bunch of other cards. And this one is so very, very interesting. And the truth is that I don't think we can talk about temperance without talking about the devil, or qualities of the devil, and whether the devil is representing the need to let go and to live life, or whether it is a reminder that we haven't listened to the message of temperance. We only know that through the question and the surrounding cards. So yes, we can start a reading and focus in on one card and trust where we want to go with it. And it's equally important to look at what is surrounding. I watched a really interesting tarot video yesterday. It was an older one, a channel that I never really followed. Now I know she has a new channel. This is Tarot Shrink, Natalia. That's her current channel name. It was formerly Ouroboros. And Natalia was talking about how her tendency now is in a reading is to lay the cards face down, turn over the first card, the most important card, and just really start talking about it, riffing about it before you turn the other cards over, because psychologically we form this first impression that never really goes away in the reading. And for the most part, that's what I do, and I want to slowly let the reading reveal itself. And of all the cards, this is one that can reveal a lot through its connections, through its mandala, its web within the tarot. This is the Soprofino, and it does not have reversed, the colors are not reversed. We have, now this is so interesting because if I look at this card, the only place I'm seeing feminine colors, there may be an underlayer of green close to the body. White is on top and red is on top. And I don't know if I was reading, I don't know if I've ever done readings with this deck actually, that I would address that. So the angelic white color is a color that is not of this earth, right? It's a color of the angels. It's a color of consciousness. It's a color that's associated with the masculine in contrast to the black that is associated with the feminine, the dark and the light. And here we have white and red. So I find that really interesting. Jodorowsky wonders if the wings are ever used because the angel has assumed all telluric energies and dominated her libido. This is Bendov's deck here. Student of Jodorowsky, by the way. Okay. It's been a while since I read the Jodorowsky chapter on this card. We don't see the angel's feet, and yet the angel is on the earth. The other angelic cards that we see in the tarot, the angel is not standing upon the earth. So that description that the angel has assumed all telluric energies it's a really interesting sentence. And I think, Dee, that is one of the conversations that has to do with the three virtues that are within the tarot is the reversal of order that they are presented. So the first one is 8, which is justice, and the second one is strength, which is 11, and then the third one is temperance, which is 14. And the presentation of it in that order, I don't know. I don't know what to make of that. So I need to come back to that thought. Strength is in the middle of these two virtues. So on one side we have justice. Ooh, wait a minute. On one side we have justice, and on one side we have temperance. And isn't that interesting how similar, in a way, we have, like justice and temperance are? Why is strength in the middle of justice and temperance? And I'm thinking of the scales being very similar to the positioning of the vessels and the water. So I don't know what you might make of that, but interesting observation. The story of the cards and adding them together or mixing them give infinite energy. He feels she is very much the guardian of mankind, showing the middle way. And I know the idea of middle path can be very almost sickening to some people. I remember Benabel when writing on a blog, was talking about the middle path. And of course she's talking about the middle path in Buddhism, and she was talking about some, this was during COVID when there was lots of riots and people standing up for some horrific things that had been happening. And the middle path, through my practices, I think I would describe this as also the yogic path, one of nonviolence, nonviolence to self, nonviolence to others in word, action, and thought, can be very, very difficult to choose and to stay on. And having, I think it says a lot that this comes after death. One needs to be willing to release some earthly experiences in order to begin this part of the journey. This is not easy work by any means. You can choose somebody like, Gandhi, that's, taking this to a nth degree, but pick any historical figure who chose the middle path. It's a very lofty principle. And so in reading the tarot, we need to understand what this card is asking of us. And if I really, really want to simplify this is about my own healing. And sometimes I feel that people are afraid to take care of themselves and their own issues first because it appears selfish rather than self-caring. And I think that's why I continue to do the work that I do, and that is to help others to understand how important this card is, this principle is, in moving forward and finding peace in one's life. It feels like when we are on the brink of the abyss, temperance is there to push us away from the fall. And like I said, if you are reading right to left and we go 13, 14, 15, Temperance is leaning away from the devil. Completely aware of the devil, but leaning away from the devil. So that's kind of cool. Yeah, I mean, and it's going to depend on your comfort with reading right to left, left to right, what lefts and rights mean or don't mean, but this is a really juicy one. And like I said, if you've studied the more alchemical decks, you know how layered this card is. And the more variety of books that I read on these older tarots, the more I'm starting to think that there are some esoteric, or the esoteric leaders that weren't more publicly written about until a little bit later, another century later. There's something that's being said here. It's not completely without esoteric qualities, the Tarot de Marseille. Yeah. So perhaps you can let me know what your favorite older Temperance card is and why, and what this layer means for you, and how you might I guess what I'm asking is, what is your favorite synonym or vocabulary around the lesson of this card? And it has to do with refining. And that doesn't mean, making you a higher class and going to, what were those schools people went to to learn to speak better and act better. This is about your inner nature and learning to let go of some of your stuff so that you can be the best version of who you are. And I think the angel is here, feet on the ground, with you to support you through that. Okay. So thanks for listening, and I'll be back in the next week with the next episode, and maybe we can talk more about this card in terms of the energy of the devil. Appreciate you all. Enjoy the rest of your day. Namaste.